Hey, Gun Penguin. Where are you going?
Ow.
You trying to get out of doing that Glock review?
No.
You sure?
I'll go finish the review.
Now you listen to me, you little penguin punk. You better start making me some black, plastic, striker fire, generic pistol videos, or I'm gonna kill your ass.
So Gun Penguin, I heard from the grapevine that you're going to be stopped making videos on polymer frame striker fired pew-pews. You will continue to make these videos.
This is TGP. And this is TGP if he doesn't make another black tactical gun video.
You better make an APX video. Or be prepared to be, acquainted with mine.
You hear me?
And if you don't, and this is your favorite snack ever.
Oh, I'm sorry. You must not like listening. This time, you're gonna show me the videos I want to see.
I will rip off your head, stuff it in the bake lays, shake it around.
Look, if you don't do it, I'm gonna shoot you.
And drown you in it until you breathe no longer.
You do more reviews on black plastic guns, or this is going on an AUG.
Hello friends, tonight we're taking a look at the Glock 19, the 5th generation Glock 19 to be precise. Since this is a throwback to the days when I used to review this sort of thing, we're not doing the black screen or any of that stuff. It's going to be the old format. It just kind of seems fitting, I guess. Y'all asked for this, though I'm kind of more into like revolvers and blowback pistols these days. I do understand that y'all want to see me review something in the old school fashion. So anyway, the Glock 19 is so boring that I've never considered discussing it in a video. What is there to say? It's a fucking Glock 19, but people like it most when I review black plastic 9mm handguns. So let's review the gun that defined the genre. In the year of 2022, we have so many polymer striker fired pistols to choose from. Many of them are mixable and matchable with a ton of expensive accessories and modularity. Some of them aren't even polymer at all. You can add a nice, heavy, inflexible aluminum frame to your favorite polymer pistol design. Yay! Some are great with features that are seemingly far superior to anything that Glock offers, and others look awful and feel even worse than they look, if you can imagine that. It's tough, but these pictures will help. Yeah, it's gross, right? Yeah, that one definitely offends the senses. Imagine being born so utterly devoid of taste, so utterly lacking any sense of beauty that you draw that design. That would suck. It would really suck to be that guy. Anyhow, there are so many designs that don't suck, and more all the time. So many manufacturers have nearly full-on custom shops these days where you can order a golden fluted barrel that looks like C-3PO's cock, or a slide that is just like a regular slide in every way, except more of the metal has been removed in different places for some reason, like a tactical Swiss cheese. Manufacturers also sell guns with modular serialized trigger groups, letting you easily swap frames, and others have cutting-edge optics mounting solutions. And handgun doctrine and design is changing to offer parallel categories. Would you like a small, easier to conceal gun with a Glock 19-esque capacity, or a larger gun this size that is a bit easier to shoot? More and more folks are perhaps rightfully choosing the former. Is the Glock 19 still the best 9mm handgun in 2022? That's the question that every Glock 19 video asks. That's the question you expect me to ask and answer, surely. And that's why I've never made this video. It's fucking boring. I'm bored now. I'm already bored. I already miss the Black Void and blowback pistols and revolvers and all the new stuff. But listen, I'm here to please you. I want to please you. Please let me get on my knees and please you. I'd much rather be helping BDSM Horse in its basement lab. A few months ago, it got interested in centaur astrology, and ever since then, guided by the stars, it has tirelessly toiled to produce what it considers to be the most fuckable horse-human hybrid ever created. That would be more useful than this video so far. Also, I think Teniver's probably helping with that project. So I'm supposed to look at the Glock 19 at this point and either say, well, it might be plain, but it's won 2 world wars, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and other dumb shit like that. Or I can point towards one of the other cooler looking guns and talk about how it's miles ahead. Better throw all these Glocks in the garbage. Just fucking throw them out. Ugh. These are dumb answers to a question that isn't particularly relevant anymore. We've reached a point where, for our practical civilian purposes, everything is the same. Every 9mm handgun that doesn't suck is reliable, and you can choose either a small one or a larger one. We're looking at the larger ones today. The Glock, the PPQ, the VP9, the Janik, the Fn509, the P320, the 365, it all works well. We can also expand the list, since with the resurgence of interest in metal frames and hammers, the genre lines are getting blurry. The Walther Q5, the CZ SP01, the assorted Beretta 92s, the PX4, the HK P30, the USP, those are all reliable. They all work. But YouTube gun channels, and the gun media in general, still speaks about guns the same way we did 20 years ago. Like we're waiting for the one true gun, the most reliable and consistent of all guns, that will finally bring reliability and peace to all semi-automatic pistol owners. Praise be to the one true gun. That happened. It happened a long time ago, 20 years ago. I remember the Glock 19, the Walther P99, the HK USP, and the Beretta 92 were all on the market at the same time. It's an antiquated way to think about guns. Which gun is best gun? But we still do it. Is the Glock 19 still the king of kings? Watch to find out. We just need to discuss this differently. Instead, if all these guns work, and they do, I know what the question is for me. Which guns are cool? Is the Glock 19 still cool to me? Ah, there we go. Now I find this video interesting. Features. Now that we know what the real most important question is, there's no need to cover the history of the Glock 19. It's boring as fuck. And there are a ton of other videos that can give you the factually dubious internet forum oral history of the Glock 19 anyway. So we're going to skip that. The Glock 19 came out in 1988 because people wanted a slightly smaller Glock 17. Instead, let's travel back in time and talk about coolness, reliability, and gun culture 20 years ago. I started shooting 20 years ago, you see, and I'd like to get nostalgic, perhaps even wistful for a moment. I may even mention some of the music that was on the radio in that long, long ago forgotten time when things were different. Old dudes had to yell at you in person, in gun stores, because they hadn't yet learned to work computers. Though they still can't decipher spam from real email and have enriched the lives of many a Nigerian monarch, they did eventually learn how to log into thehighroad.org. In those days, you bought wolf ammo at the gun show for a nickel, and you could actually find the guns you wanted at the store. Every other gun was chambered in .40 Smith & Wesson, a cartridge with so much staying power and stopping power. Surely it'll still be killing moon men during the Highland Moonrock Rush of 2152. The moon men said, "Go home, colonizers," and the .40 said, "No thanks, moon men." Yes, sir, that .40 Smith & Wesson, it's around with longevity. Oh yeah, and we had the fucking assault weapons ban. That was still in effect. That sucked. I could afford like 3 15-round mags for my Glock Model 22 chambered in the eternal .40 Smith & Wesson. We really knew which way the wind was blowing in those days, let me tell you. Then 2004 rolled around and the assault weapons ban was repealed. The bottom really fell out on those magazine speculators. That was a thing at the time, by the way. Stockpiling mags, thinking that they'd just continue to go up in value. That didn't work out for a lot of people. They lost all that sweet high cap mag cash they spent. I was glad I only had like 3 of them at the time, as much as my poor thumbs hated that at the range. So much has changed in a mere 2 decades. If you've only gotten into the sport in the last 10 years or less, you've bought a gun during a great age of choice and opportunity or something. I mean, not the last 2 years. Those have been rough. You had to suck a dick for a box of hand-loaded 9mm. But even just 20 years ago, guns didn't work as well, and there weren't as many choices. And that's when the Glock reigned supreme, or So we were told. But even then, I don't know. It's not like the Glock was the only reliable option. I remember a very well-known instructor, a man who is very outspoken and known for making sweeping one-size-fits-all generalizations, telling me that everyone always should only ever have a Glock for any reason. Well, okay, so I bought one. I couldn't afford a 19 or find one or something at the time, so I ended up with a Glock Model 22. Who knows what the fuck was wrong with me back then. But people said that nothing else worked as well at all. There were enough options on the market at the time that did legitimately suck that I felt it was probably sound to just buy a Glock, just in case. But at the time, nearly all instructors were also tucking t-shirts into jeans or shorts and then wearing those weird, I don't know, photography vests or whatever they were to cover their guns. They all looked exactly the same, and in any room, it was super fucking obvious who had a gun. Even then, gray men were about as gray as a fucking fire truck. While we're mocking the gun community at the time, do y'all remember that every instructor and most of the class exclusively listened to awful nu metal? But not like anything good from that era. No Tool or Deftones. It was 100% Stained, Disturbed, Three Doors Down, and that fucking band Saliva. Y'all remember that band? Christ, it was like nobody had working ears at the time. Terrible stuff. Those bands sound the way the Springfield XD looks. Like 40-year-old gun squares with their shirts tucked into their Wrangler jeans, wearing bulky wraparound sunglasses with a poorly trimmed goatee. Oh, and the only liquid those folks consumed was Monster Energy drinks. Their fucking kidneys were surely green. So anyway, I bought a Glock. It was the safe move, right? There was less data available to consumers at the time. Then it felt like instructors had all the data. And most of them were telling us that we needed to have Glocks. The Glock was the one true gun. It had finally come. At long last, after years of praying, the one true gun has come. The King of Kings. When I took classes, I did often notice that other designs had trouble. This would be controversial, but at the time, I often saw SIG 226s have problems, along with the many 1911s available at the time. Those just stuck out in my head. We now know that the P99, the USP, and Beretta 92 are very reliable, and in my experience, on par with the Glock. But instructors and the shooting public didn't see them often enough to really form an opinion. But there was enough data on the Glock. Again, it was the one true gun. At the time, if somebody bought something like a P99 or a USP, the Beretta 92 was maybe more common than those others, but you couldn't go to the range and see someone shooting those every week and go, oh, well, I know that to be a really solid gun. That just didn't exist. The one true gun was a concept that the younger instructors should have seen to be folly. This was left over from their fathers and grandfathers who awaited the coming of a semi-auto pistol that would be as reliable as their revolving .38s. Long had its coming been foretold. But even by 2004, I was seeing more of these other guns at classes in the range. Every year there were a few more. And it started to become clear that they were maybe more reliable than we thought they were. That's when I first began to doubt the one true gun. For me, it was shooting a Beretta 92 for a weekend. Even under heavy use, it didn't malfunction for the duration of the weekend. This wasn't what I'd been told. I was told that there's no way it would be able to get through something like that. As the years went on, there were more and more guns like that I ran across, and eventually they got so good that I no longer gave a shit about the gun of the moment. Now I choose guns purely based on coolness, and that makes me much happier. That's your very long, pointless, and completely subjective history of the last 2 decades of gun culture. I really just didn't want to have to go through all the Glock specs, so I told you a story instead. But fuck it, this is still a review, so I guess we're going to need to talk about some of the features, and I guess we'll just decide whether each of them is cool or not. That probably makes sense for this video. The Glock 19 is a polymer-framed, striker-fired, sort of a compactish handgun chambered in 9mm. That's cool, I guess. I like that. This particular 5th generation example is the most blah of varieties available, in that it has the stock plastic ball in a cup Glock sights, and it's not the MOS model. It's like people who wear UGG boots. It's completely forgettable. The Gen 5 Glock 19 weighs 21.5 ounces and has a 4-inch barrel. It also has the same NDLC finish as the other Gen 5 Glocks that we've looked at on the channel. Elsewhere, I've discussed that finish in great detail. Just as a quick refresher, the finish is the exterior color that you see, the rather fetching, shiny black. The NDLC looks fantastic and is very hard, but I've found it to be kind of chippy, mostly at friction points inside the gun. Personally, I don't give a shit. This has no impact on longevity or performance, and used, well-worn guns look cooler. Wear away, little friend. But some people get weird about that shit, so I mention it. But underneath the NDLC surface finish, the metal itself has been treated as well. The steel has a nitride treatment, just as Glocks have had for as long as I've been using them. The mythical Tenifer finish is a nitride process, just like melanite. These are trade names for very similar processes that leave you with an equally durable gun. Folks confuse the metal treatment with the finish when they discuss the old Tenifer guns as though they never wear at all. That's really a discussion of the external coating. Beneath what you can see, new Glock or old Glock, the parts are going to be durable. So does the NDLC finish look cool? Well, God, absolutely it does. Just look at it. From a coolness perspective, this is the best finish Glock has ever used. It's sort of shiny and looks really awesome in the right light. You get that sort of reflective slide in the matte polymer frame. It's a nice two-tone effect. It's hot, and I love it. Sign me up. This is one of the coolest finishes around, but it does wear. But I have to say again, I don't give two shits about wear. I say let the gun get good and worn in, shoot the hell out of it, and worry about things that actually matter. And wear raises coolness, which is one of the things we're here to discuss. Should we look inside the gun? Well, Christ, why not? We've looked inside a bunch of other Gen 5 Glocks on the channel, so why not waste some more time looking at this other one that's going to look exactly like the others inside. I had this one good and lubed up for my last range trip. Man, that's dirty. I haven't cleaned it. Look at the frame. Yeah, no wear on the frame. I mean, these are durable. I mean, it's a Gen 5 Glock. And you know what? I don't think it's gotten chippy inside yet. So we're not to that point. That happened with my Glock 45 when it started to have a. That happened with my Glock 45 when it had, I don't know, a couple thousand rounds through it. This one isn't quite there yet. This is not a reliability test. This is a coolness analysis. We're just concerned with coolness. That's all. I mean, what do we expect to see here, really? This Glock doesn't have a huge round count. It's got just under 1,000 rounds through it. That's nothing. That's not even notable. That's not even enough to really give a good review of a gun. But luckily, I've shot a ton of these guns, so we can safely rate its coolness with 1,000 rounds through our review example here. The Gen 5 Glock's got an upgrade to the trigger, they say. They are supposed to be smoother and more crisp. I'm discussing this here because I would consider it to be a feature. Let's look. There's some creak. We hit the wall and move on through. And this one's pretty meh. It's not quite broken in yet. Is that a feature? I don't know, but it's worth mentioning. We've got front slide serrations. Those are nice. No finger grooves. Unlike my Gen 4 Glock Model 40, a lot of folks prefer to have no finger grooves, so it's nice that they got what they wanted. At the front, the muzzle edge is beveled. I think they say this helps with smooth holstering or something, and who knows? There are a few other small changes, but really that's it. Performance. Let's just say it up front. This gun is reliable. every gun we're going to compare it to is super reliable. Let's just shut up about reliability. Instead, we're going to compare it to each of these guns based on coolness. But how cool is the Glock's performance? The trigger is not that cool. It takes a while for the Gen 5s to wear in. But when they do, the trigger is probably the best Glock trigger. It just takes a while to get to that point, and that's not cool. Instant gratification is cool. We all know that. The trigger is kind of creaky out of the box. But I've been shooting Glocks for so many years, who the fuck cares what the trigger is like? It shoots great. Also, this is weird. My first Glock 45 that I had the trigger felt broken in out of the box. So I thought that was the way just all the Gen 5s felt. And then I've had others, and it's way more like this, what you're going to get. So my original Gen 5, a G45, every time I pick that thing up, I say, showing the trigger in that video, I'm not sure that was really representative of what you're usually getting. That thing still to this day has just an extraordinarily good trigger, and it's totally stock. I don't get it. Yeah, the plastic sights are low effort and cheap. That's not cool, but weird thing is, I love how they shoot, and I feel comfortable using them, so that's pretty cool, I guess. The gun sits very low in my hand, and that's super cool. It makes the Glock very quick and easy to control. When I'm warmed up, it feels like this gun just has minimal muzzle flip. Thanks to the flared magwell, magazine changes are a breeze. I hate when guns don't have some sort of bevel there to assist you, so that's very cool. There's no way to attach optics. That's not cool, but I intentionally bought it without the MOS option, so whose fault is that? But increasingly, a lot of guns are MOS capable out of the box. Should Glock only sell MOS guns? Maybe. That would certainly be cool, but the gun wouldn't look as cool as this one does with no plate on top. It's nice and smooth, and that's cool. The serrations are cool. The slide finish is cool. It's all cool. I like this gun. But everybody fucking has one. And I mean everybody. Every motherfucker on earth has like 3 of these. That's really not cool. But importantly, maybe I shoot this gun really well, despite the fact that it irritates me. It annoys me how much I like this gun that everybody has. But I really do love it. And I can never quite get away from the Glocks. Berettas are like that for me too. I can't get away from them. So we know the gun is pretty cool, but how does it compare to some other guns? The P99. The Walther P99 and the Glock 19 were the 2 striker-fired guns of the late 90s and early 2000s. There were other things you could find, but these 2 were the contenders. The P99 was still relatively rare, though. At the time, compared to a Gen 3 Glock, the P99 was clearly cooler. Is that still true, looking at the P99 AS, the 2nd generation, versus our 5th generation Glock here? The P99 has a terrible grip texture, though, so I had to add this Talon grip tape sticker stuff, and it works very well. That's less cool than the Glock's excellent grip texture, and the P99 has some weird light rail shit going on, but I finally found this stream light that works. It's not cool that you can't just get whatever light you like and stick it on there. The P99 also sits higher in my hand than the Glock. And many of you love to complain about bore axis because you don't shoot a wide variety of guns and you're weak of character. That means that you're not cool. The Glock sits lower in your hand, and for some people that can translate to much faster follow-up shots, apparently. The P99 has the best trigger I've ever felt on a striker-fired gun. The trigger system almost mimics a double-action, single-action system. Long pull. Very short, crisp pull. And while I don't want to go into details here, this trigger is remarkable and I love it. The P99 also has a paddle magazine release. Oh, and James Bond used one for a while. The P99 is definitely cooler than the Glock 19, though it's a shame it never got an update. And, I just can't say enough good things about this trigger. It's just one of the best triggers ever. It's absolutely fantastic. The PPQ. All right, then, so what about the PPQ? I can just tell you it's definitely cooler than a Glock. The grip is fantastic, and it has half of the amazing P99 trigger system. The PPQ is also just as durable as the Glock. But it still doesn't sit as low in your hand as the Glock. All the same, the PPQ is killer. This gun is for smart people, people who just think the right way. Good people who are solid and will probably loan you money and never ask where it is when you don't pay it back. good people, my kind of people. The P10C. The CZ P10C appears to be cooler than the Glock. It sits low in the hand, the texture is more aggressive, and the trigger is better. Initially. This gun is usually accompanied by a young white guy who wants to tell you all the reasons that CZ is the best gun company. Secretly, he wishes he'd had more money to buy an HK, but he didn't, so he needs to convince you that this is better somehow. It isn't. Mine is one of the earlier ones made in the Czech Republic, though not the earliest batch. Mine had a few issues, but they've improved it quite a bit from what I hear. Before the issues, this was my favorite striker-fired gun. To some people, this gun will be cooler than the Glock, but I generally think that CZ people are lame, and the build quality of this gun isn't as good as some of the things on this list, though it's still excellent. You can't go wrong with this one, but I'd rather have the Glock. Better to be regular than one of those people who goes to wine tastings and has an Old West mustache. The Glock 19 is definitely cooler. The Fn509. The Fn509 is made locally, and I generally like it, but it's not that cool. I don't really know why. The trigger kind of sucks. The Glock trigger is generally better. Look at how creaky, weird that trigger is. The texturing on the grip is also blocky, like it's, I don't know, fucking covered in Legos or something. That could be done better. The sights are fantastic, though, on this particular model. Good Lord, those are nice. And these are reliable. The Glock is cooler, though. I don't know why. It just is. God, this video is a fucking waste of time. Janik. I have these two Janiks. These are cool because they have amazing triggers. And it's really cool that you get such an awesome gun so cheaply. These are probably as good as the Glock in many ways. It scares me that the trigger is so light, and the grip texture, it really kind of sucks. That's not cool. Also, the guns just kind of feel cheap, but it's very fun to take them to the range and shoot them fast when people think that they're cheap turds. That's definitely cool. But they aren't cooler than the Glock. Also, if you have one of these, I'm sorry that you're poor, but I really can't think of a better bargain in guns. Like these are fucking hot, and I like them a lot. They're tremendously fun to shoot. The P30. The HK P30, it's definitely cooler than the Glock. Just look at it. This is an example of why coolness matters. This gun has a terrible trigger. It's very easy to ride the slide release, and it sits very high in the hand. Yet, objectively, this gun is cooler. Just look at how cool it looks. The grip is insanely comfortable. The slide looks super cool, and it has a paddle magazine release. And people are going to be jealous that you have one. It's a cool gun, definitely cooler than the Glock. It's probably worse to shoot, though. This gun is the kind of gun that you buy when you have a BMW, but you haven't shot that many other guns. There's always some guy on his third range trip telling somebody who's on their first range trip that the trigger is so good. It's just insane, bro. It's insane. It is. It's insanely bad. But I still like it. This is one of my favorite guns ever. And despite some of the weird design choices, I feel like I shoot it better than almost anything else. It makes me happy. It's definitely cooler than the Glock. But the Glock still probably shoots a hair better. I'd still choose the P30 though. The SP01. The SP01 is the CZ that I like. Normal people buy them. People who aren't completely insufferable. The trigger is weird, and it isn't as reliable as the Glock, but it sits low in the hand and it shoots well. It's not cooler than the Glock, but it's almost as cool. I like it. It's like a cheap Beretta, like a sort of knockoff 92. I dig it. The Glock is cooler. The Glock 40. The Glock 40 is huge and is definitely cooler than the Glock 19. I think I just prefer 10mm to 9mm. Shooting it gives me this warm sense of accomplishment that you just don't get with 9mm. I find it very pleasant. I think you'd like it. The 92A1. The Beretta 92 has a fantastic trigger, and that's super cool. Super smooth, double action. Very crisp, single action. Because of the weight and the mechanism, the recoil impulse is both pleasant and very mild. I very much enjoy shooting it. The grip is chunky, and the sights could be a bit larger. I found this to also be one of the most reliable guns I've tested, and that was surprising. You know, I have to say this particular gun, the Beretta 92A1, but maybe just this exact example, this is my favorite gun ever. It's cooler than the Glock, to be sure. There's no arguing with that. It just is. It's clearly the coolest gun ever. The Makarov, definitely cooler than the Glock. This revolver is cooler than the Glock. Final thoughts. This video was ridiculous, but it's also ridiculous, this idea that reviewing the Glock 19 is valuable. Shame on all of you who asked me to do it, and shame on me for agreeing to it, I guess. There's nothing to gain here. And that's really why I don't enjoy reviewing a lot of newer polymer guns. We've gotten to a point where they're so similar. What is there to say? So I find now that I'm just choosing guns based on how much I subjectively like them. If I think a gun is cool, that's good enough. We know it's going to perform well and it's going to be reliable. Just buy the hottest one. Buy the one you want to fuck the most, I guess, in that case. It's like looking for a horse, I guess. It's also worth noting that the Glock 19 is still excellent. I'm tired of hearing folks talking about whether or not whatever new gun has dethroned the Glock once and for all. Who cares? If you still like the Glock, shoot that. If not, buy a 365. Just buy whatever you like. That premise implies two things, two very stupid things. One, it implies that there is an answer to that question for all people. All of you, regardless of skill level and body type, should go buy this gun. Yeah, that's stupid. And two, that the person making the video knows what gun that is for all people. If you think there's an answer to that question, then you know very little. There is no answer to that question. There is no best gun. And we all know clearly you should decide what gun to buy based purely on coolness. Good night. Wow, that fucking dog just barked through my whole ending. Fucking dog. Now people are screaming at the dog in the street. What the fuck is going on out there?